Jamie, thanks so much for doing this. Tell me about your business. Tell me where you guys are located. Tell me your Instagram, social media handles, all that good stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
You're
Jamie
welcome.
Chang. I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the owner and destination wedding planner at Mango Muse Events. I'm also the creator of Passport to Joy, which is an online wedding planning course for couples, and recently the founder of Let's I Do This, which is virtual and intimate weddings in the Bay Area.
Nice.
Social media. So we are on all all the things.
All channels,
Pinterest,
everywhere, anywhere.
Instagram, Facebook, etc. At Mango Muse Events. Pretty straightforward. Passport to Joy, we're on most of them as well at Passport to Joy Weddings. And then Let's I Do This is just Instagram, which is Let's I Do This Wedding.
All right, cool. Let's talk about those. So what was the inspiration behind the first business, Mango Muse?
Yeah, so when I dived into wedding planning, I wasn't really aimed at doing destination weddings. It just sort of evolved. And as it evolved, it was the perfect fit. Partially for who I am, but how I operate, and then the couples I connect with.
Yeah.
Destination weddings just made a whole lot of sense. So we specialize in destination weddings. We do things both here in the Bay, but also around the world. So our clients are kind of everywhere throughout the country, throughout the world, and we're sort of all over the place as well.
But you're in a very international location, right? Because San Francisco is a really high travel into area for the Bay Area, right? For Silicon Valley, and then probably a lot of trade comes in through San Francisco area, right?
Yeah, I mean, we get a ton of people here, and I like to say a big portion of the people who live here are also transplants. Like they're not
Yep.
like I'm not from here originally either.
Yeah.
We all kind of find our way here, and we're from different parts of the country or the world. But yes, there's a lot of business, a lot of tourism. We also have like wine country not very far away,
Not
which
very far. Yeah.
attracts a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably one of the coolest areas of California, I think, that whole area right there. So
I agree. I mean, I live here, so I'm biased, but
yeah.
but I agree. I agree. There's
Yeah.
a lot of fun things to do around here.
I mean, not that the rest of California is not beautiful. It is actually. I mean, up towards Yosemite is beautiful. That whole area is amazing, but completely different, right? But if you want like the big trees and just like amazing over there in the San Francisco area, and then of course the wine country and all that stuff. It's just as you move your way north, I think in California, it just becomes I don't know, very woodsy and a beautiful, right? Not like Southern California where you have a lot more desert landscape and things like that.
Right, right. We get more trees, which
Yep.
I love, and yeah, the landscape is varied though, which is part of what I love about California too.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So what the other businesses, let's
Oh,
talk about those a little bit. What's the
right,
inspiration?
right. So Passport to Joy was birthed, I'd like to say, in the last few years. I've been doing weddings now for over 11 with Mango Muse Events, and over those 11 years, you talk to a lot of couples who you want to help and who they know they need help, and yet from a budget perspective it's just not feasible. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And you kind of give them what you can, and then they send them on their way, and like good luck in the world of internet. And
Yeah.
so for many years that was just I was resigned to that. And then there came a point where I talked to someone specifically, and I was just like, there has to be something, like something to help people who are planning their own weddings but don't want to do it on their own or just need guidance.
Yeah.
So Passport to Joy was born. It's really sort of my step-by-step process that I take my one-on-one clients through, but laid out
Yeah.
in an online course format. So it goes literally from like engagement to wedding day, and it takes you through all the pieces, all the questions you have, all the things you need to be thinking about. There's lots of templates. There's an advisor, which I think is huge because everyone always has questions.
Yeah,
Everyone's
for sure.
situation is different. So that's where that came from. A desire to just help people who want help and need help, but they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, understanding the industry and interviewing a bunch of wedding planners, I'm not sure if I were going to get married again. I mean, I'd be like, I'm hiring a planner, man, to do it because I mean, I'll find the money to do it. We'll just cut out something else. But a lot of people don't understand the amount of work that you guys put into this thing. It's just amazing. You definitely don't get paid enough, I'll say for sure, for the amount of work that you guys put into it. And just all the stuff you have to deal with and understand and be aware of. And it's just, yeah, it's crazy. So,
There's a lot. There's a
yeah,
lot
it is,
that goes into
right?
it.
And so, yeah, but people can't always afford that, and that's the reality of the business in general and of the market, right?
Yeah.
People just can't always afford it. So I'm glad that you're creating a product that can reach down into the market and help couples. And all right, so what about the third business?
Oh, so my third one now, which got born out of COVID.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
just the world of we're doing a lot of virtual weddings in the Bay. We're doing things specifically in the Bay because that's kind of what we can control. We're not
Right.
doing this worldwide. But we're trying to really just find ways to celebrate still now, but do it safely. And so we started off with virtual weddings. We're just about to launch our sort of phase 2 packages.
Okay.
Have a little bit of an in-person component now that that's now allowed to some degree here.
Yeah.
But the idea is really just, it's hard. It's hard to be engaged right now. And I feel horrible for any couple, right? Who had a wedding planned or just got engaged or whatever. It's a rough time. And
Yeah.
all the uncertainty and is it going to be 2021 or 2022 or who knows, right? Nobody
Yeah.
knows. And the idea of having to wait just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So this is just an opportunity for people to get married now quickly and easily with an amazing set of vendors who can pull it off for you in an awesome way as if it was any other wedding day.
Yeah.
Just a little different.
Yeah. So what does that entail? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's we've tried to make it easy because people are sort of deciding, okay, yep, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it now, and we want to get married in the next month. So the package is really meant to be easy, and so it includes all the things you would need for this virtual and or sort of hybrid event.
Okay.
So that includes, your planner, myself, design, the DJ, the tech needed for that virtual aspect, cake, flowers, an officiant, and then all the little fun extra things like champagne and a special customized wedding meal and a hair and makeup like one-on-one consultation where it's still super safe, but you can learn how to do what you want to do to yourself, which is
Nice.
never going to be quite the same, but
Yeah.
it's better than what you're capable of yourself, and having
Right.
that sort of customization still involved. It's just a little different. And then the big thing that excites me the most is just it's a lot of this is virtual, and so how do you get that interaction that comes with weddings, which is what we love about it, right? And yes, you can't hug and you can't do those things, but you can still create an experience for your guests and for yourselves, and that comes with a little bit of kind of fun surprises that you send them or what's included in the wedding that's maybe a little different than the quote unquote like normal wedding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's how you make it fun and get people to connect, and it's not just a Zoom call, right? It goes beyond that, so you feel like you're a part of it even if you're separate.
Yeah. So how long does that typically go for time wise? And
yeah. So the completely virtual events, we call the live portion, and live in the sense of guests and the couple, is 4 hours. Is kind of the idea. So there's the ceremony, you can have a cocktail hour, the full-on dance party, and then whether or not we want to include dinner, that kind of depends a little bit on the couple and the situation.
Sure.
When we're adding in this sort of phase 2 portion where there's an in-person portion of things, it's kind of getting extended to more like 5 hours of like live time.
Nice.
Where there's that virtual component, people are a part of it, whether or not they're physically there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. We're real excited about it. It's different. It's new, obviously. But the team that we pulled together, we're real excited about. And they're excited, and it's, once again, it's just a chance to celebrate something happy.
Well, and the other thing too is as a business owner, I mean, it's an opportunity for you to pivot a little bit and actually work,
Definitely,
right?
definitely.
Right? Because events, let's face it, probably there won't be any concerts until next year, and then that might not be until summertime unless they're outside and it's like a drive up thing. So, but concerts as we know it and sporting events and things like that and large gatherings are probably out of the question for at least the rest of this year.
At least.
Yeah, in most states anyway.
Yeah.
There are probably some states that are very. I think I was doing a little research, and there are a few states that actually have no restrictions at all, but those are few and far between.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
I agree. I think it's going to be a little while before things are we can have like events and weddings in the same way
yeah.
that we used to. And I mean, I hope it's sooner rather than later
Me
for many
too. Yeah.
reasons, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So this kind of
Yeah.
gives us
It's
a
quite
chance.
dynamic situation. So
It is always changing, right?
yeah, let's talk a little bit about the new business that you put together around the process. So if a couple's looking to get married and they want to do like a virtual event,
Mhm.
what is the process that they have to go through? What does it look like from a timeline perspective and all that stuff?
Yeah, so it's meant to be super easy and quick once again, so that you can kind of decide to get married and then get married. You don't have to
Just
wait
do
6
it.
months.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is that the website's really the main driver. So it has all the information, the package information. They pay there, they agree to the terms online, and then they fill out a form. And in that form has all of the details of, the dates they're looking at, the guest count, et cetera, et cetera. We ask all the questions we're looking for, and then we set up a kickoff call to talk through all that, to finalize a date with all of our team and just kind of go through what they've responded to so we know how we can create something special and something customized for them within that
Nice.
package.
Yeah.
And whether that includes add-ons or doing something a little different based off what they said, is sort of how it begins. And then from there, it's really just a matter of sort of sharing that information with the team. And in some cases, not a lot of back and forth is needed between the couple and, say, the cake baker necessarily.
Yeah.
But in some cases, like the DJ or the officiant, obviously there's a conversation that happens between them, so that once again, it's a customized experience. And
Sure.
what happens and what gets played and what gets created is still very much about that couple, as opposed to just sort of a blanket thing.
Yeah. Are they doing a photography component or is it just the video part that's part of the photography piece?
Yeah, so the completely virtual version does not have a photographer, mainly just for safety reasons.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
But the in-person one definitely does. And so we're having time for the couple to
Like the
take
phase two
photos.
piece that you're putting in.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So the idea behind the phase two is it's an in-person, outdoor, socially distanced ceremony with a photo shoot kind of wrapped into that as well. So they have time to meet with the photographer and get some portraits and have
Yeah.
some time for that, in addition to obviously the ceremony itself. And then it continues with the virtual reception, because that's the portion that's a little hairier when it comes to safety.
Yeah.
So we're kind of doing that, and then as things evolve, and cross my fingers once again, things get better,
Yeah.
those packages will evolve as well to sort of fit the needs of the bay.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is probably moving you towards some of the micro, smaller wedding events that'll probably happen for at least the next year or two, and could be
Definitely.
the new norm, right? At some point.
Yeah, yeah. I think small weddings, micro weddings, I mean, whatever term you want to use, tiny weddings, mini
Yeah.
weddings, they're definitely
Intimate weddings.
right. I mean, you could throw any small word at it, and
Right.
they're all essentially the same thing. It's just something smaller. I think is
Mhm.
definitely going to be the new norm for a long time.
Yeah.
For me, for destination weddings, they're always kind of small, so it's not all that different in terms of what I usually
Right.
plan.
Right. Yeah.
But they're smaller. Like we're talking in some cases 10, right,
Yep.
or 20.
Yeah.
So it's much more intimate though, I think, and there's definitely it can feel a lot more connected and personal in that way than say the 75-person wedding or the 100-person wedding or the 150-person wedding, because it's
Yeah.
just you can have that intimacy with less people
Yeah.
versus with a larger event.
Yeah. Well, it's probably challenging for the millennials because they usually have a larger friend base. Like, I'm Gen X. I don't have a lot of, I didn't grow up with a lot of friend base. Let's just go that way. So, but my daughter, man, the youngest daughter is 26 and she has like, I don't know, man, she just puts one thing out there like Instagram, and the next thing you know, she's got like 200 people liking it. And it's like, where do you have all these friends? Like,
Yeah, I don't have that many friends.
but it's funny, right? Like, it must be really challenging for like millennials for sure, right? Like, they usually have a large, a large base of people that they hang out with or communicate with on a constant basis. So to not be able to invite them all in to their, to their event must be a little challenging for them. I,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know for sure, but I gotta imagine there is some feeling of like, oh my God, I can't invite so and so, or we can't.
I think there's always that, right? Because when you put together your guest list, it's always bigger than you imagine. I mean, no
Yeah, that's
matter
true.
what, even if you're like you and I with not 200 friends, it still can get big really fast. And I think that's kind of the beauty, honestly, of of the virtual concept, because you can have the people you want, or you maybe realistically what's allowed,
Yeah,
to be in there in with you in person, right? But you can also expand that to include everyone else too. Just it's just a little different.
yeah,
I actually think it's kind of a nice opportunity now that it's given us to be able to, maybe invite people who lived across the world,
that's
who
true. That's
never
true.
was going to attend anyway, but
Yeah,
now they can. Or somebody who's maybe just not the most mobile, like they were never going
yeah,
to be able to get in the car or get on a plane or whatever. They have an opportunity to be a part of it too in a
yeah.
new way that maybe wasn't, as accessible before.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Even though the technology was there, I don't think people really took advantage of it. Now they don't have a choice, and so it's like,
Yeah,
oh, let's integrate it in.
our hand has been a little forced, but I think
Yeah,
in some ways
right.
it's a good thing. It can be a really
Yeah.
good thing.
So, we talked about this earlier, but things have changed quite a bit. What would you say, you're seeing couples ask for like today versus what you were probably seeing maybe even a year ago?
Yeah, I think honestly, like I think a lot of couples are just looking to create an experience. And when I say that, it's like it goes beyond the wedding. Like, yes, they're excited to get married. Yes, they want to get married. Yes, they love each other, but it's more than that. They
Yeah.
care so much about their guests. I hear that all the time, that that's like number one thing. And because of that, it's about creating this wedding experience that's fun for them. And I think that's what's different than what it was previously. Like maybe it was more couple focused
Yeah.
before, and it was all about what I want, and not that that's doesn't still exist, because obviously those things
Sure.
still do. But I think there's been a shift to how they want their guests to feel, how they want them to be treated, how they want, the day to go, so that it's connective and interactive with these people they love.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me at least, that's what I've seen as like a huge kind of move over time, and maybe not in the last year, but definitely a shift.
Yeah.
That's been the goal and the desire and the hope
Yeah.
for their weddings.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So, when couples are thinking about maybe a virtual event or even today, with what's going on, what questions should they be thinking about, and what questions should they be asking if they're looking for someone to help them plan it?
Oh, I think the hardest part is not, and then maybe this goes beyond virtual weddings too. I think it's just not knowing what it takes to actually create it. And I think in a lot of couples' minds, like the virtual wedding is something they could do on their own, which obviously they can, like how you could
Yeah.
do a normal wedding on your own. But
Yeah.
it's trickier than you imagine. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of other sort of roles and elements that are new in this kind of virtual format, that if you don't really think through, it's kind of painful to try to do it on your own, honestly. So I think that the question you have to ask yourself is kind of like with any wedding, is sort of like, how much do I actually want to take on? And how much am I willing to like give up in order to not sort of be in that moment, right?
Right.
Like, do I want to be the host and the tech guy and the person who has to, teach grandma how to unmute and all those things that come with that virtual component, but
Yeah.
also with planning a wedding.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to sort of what you're willing to take on and what you want help with. And I think that's a hard thing for people to understand.
I think I see a new course coming for you, Jamie.
Hard to understand,
Yeah,
until
I mean, or update your existing course, right, to include virtual planning.
yeah, I mean, we're already sort of peppering. I do a lot of content, so we're sort of sharing a lot of that with our Passport to Joy members too. But
Good.
it's tricky. I mean,
Yeah.
it's trickier than you think.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I think that's a good question. It's just understanding what you want to take on in general.
Yeah.
When it
That's
comes
interesting. Yeah, because unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away a few months ago, and
I'm so sorry.
we had to do. It wasn't from COVID, but we had to do a funeral, and we were going to live stream the funeral out to guests because they would only allow 10 people at the funeral.
Right.
And I'm being the tech guy, my wife asked me, hey, can you do the live stream, whatever? And I go, yeah, I'll take care of it. No problem. I'll just get to whatever, And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to like have to deal with, it working or not working?
Yep.
And the church offered a package that was part of the, like a little extra fee. It wasn't much. It was actually only, I think, $150 extra. I said, I will gladly give them $150 to go take care of this. And so they live streamed the whole thing. And so they were able to at least have extended family. I think like 80 something people were able to get on and see the funeral, when only 10 of us were allowed actually at the funeral with the priest and, stuff. So that
Right.
I can totally see that being like, how much do I really want to take on? Because, it's tough for sure.
And honestly, that's the thing with DIY, right? It's maybe you're saving money, but you're trading time and your effort, and in this case, like just being there, right? Being able to experience that and feel the things you want to feel and be a part of it in a way that when you're like doing all the things, it's
Yeah,
not.
got to set up the camera and make sure, oh, so-and-so can't hear us. And then you got to deal with yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
different.
telling grandma how to turn off the mute is probably the hardest part.
Right. I mean,
Lower left. See where it says.
it's a small thing sometimes, but
Yeah, exactly. Let's switch gears a little bit, talk about business side of things. Over the past maybe year or so, what would you say has worked well for you?
So I changed a little bit of my sales process in the last year, and it's just gotten a little more streamlined. And I think for me, that saved me time. And it's also
Explain that a little bit.
yeah. So a little bit has been just about the inquiry process and making sure that, the getting to the point of having a conversation, which I love having the conversation because it gives the chance to just get to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That you can't, but putting things into place like a form ahead of time that just allows me to understand where they're coming from, and because I have a few different services, sort of what makes the most sense for them, or in kind of initially, so that once we start actually talking, it'll like formulate where makes sense or what makes sense. And I think for me, like trying to customize and fit what we can offer based on their situation, once again, budget, personality, all the things.
Right.
It helps to have those pieces in place beforehand so that going into the call, I kind of already have an idea of kind of where they're going to end up or where would make sense.
Right.
Well, that's really helped a lot. I think it's made everything a lot smoother. I started using a couple of different new, like, tech software-y things that have also just streamlined the process. Made it
a little bit of automation, right?
Exactly. And it just saves time. But it also, I think, to some degree, also kind of weeds out couples who just may not be a good fit for me,
Yeah, that's
or vice
good.
versa.
Well,
And
if you ask the right questions, then yeah, for sure. In fact, there was a planner that I interviewed. She's in Minneapolis. She has a two-form process. You fill out one form.
Was it Gretchen?
Yes, it was.
Gretchen.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty unique because she says, it really weeds them out completely.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, for me, I have a couple of different services, so it's a little different, but I think
Sure.
it helps. It
Yeah.
helps a ton, and I think information, honestly, like the website too, like we've kind of updated the information a bit, and I think that clarifies things too a little bit for people.
Yeah.
And it just makes it easier to see, like, okay, yep, I feel good about this, or this isn't the right fit for me, or whatever, whatever the situation may be. But
Right.
that process has really gotten more streamlined for me, which I think has been awesome. And let's see, what was your question? Your question was what has been good, right?
Yeah. What's been working well for you? Yeah.
What I've been trying to focus on in the last couple years is really just relationships as well. I'm not a big fan of networking. I don't do well at events. I'm kind of an introvert, and I'm much better one-on-one. So what I've found works for me is more just like the sit down coffee date, or in this case Zoom date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we can just chat one-on-one. I connect a lot better with people that way. And for me, with destination weddings, I don't always work with the same people over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
it's part of what I've put into place too, is a way to stay connected with the vendors and the venues.
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to go back to one of those locations, right?
Exactly. And it's also like just fun, right? To stay friends and keep up with what's going on in their lives.
What's going on with you? Yeah. How are you guys doing? Yeah. I know, totally.
So I've been trying to do more of that. Obviously COVID has made it
a little more challenging.
A little tricky, but that's been something I've been really pushing for, just on my end. Good. Just develop and keep those relationships and build new ones. It's always fun to meet somebody new. So there's that too. And I think that's made me feel more connected to the industry, because we can always feel so alone sometimes. It makes me feel connected to my community here in the Bay, and then just people all across the world. Yeah. So it's been good.
It's funny you say that because, I don't actually work in the industry. I work outside of the industry. I sit outside the industry. So all the data I'm looking at, I'm not looking at it from a perspective of a business that's working in the industry. Right. And so just having these interviews with everyone and talking to them just makes me feel more connected with everyone. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, that conversation can mean like the 30-minute conversation, right? It can just, it feels good. It feels good to connect with people and just chat, even if it's about nothing. It's nice. I think the human element is so important in our very technology forward life now that I'm trying to get away from my phone and just see people, which obviously is hard now, but see people as much as I can and just hang out, say hi, catch up, see how life is going and how I can help them maybe or vice versa.
Yeah. What would you say has been like your biggest challenges over the past, we could talk about the past 3 months, or we could talk about past year.
Oh, so the past 3 months are hard, man. And I'm sure you've heard that from everybody. I worry about our industry a lot. Yeah. It's because it's not just me, obviously, and it's gonna be hard. But I guess that could be a long conversation for us. I would say one of the things that's been always tricky for me is social media, and I do it partially because you have to do it, but it's also a way for people to find you, right? There are all the things about it, but in a lot of ways, it's not my forte. So it's always been something I struggle with a little bit. It's not my natural tendency to just share stuff about myself. Not that I'm crazy private. I'm not that person. And so social media never came very easily to me. And so it's all, and since it's grown and grown, it's obviously a part of our businesses, but it's always a little bit of a hurdle for me.
No, I
But
get it. I totally get it. It's challenging sometimes, right? Because where do you have to be? There's 50 things you have to be on now, and
yes,
how do you interact? And I know it can be totally challenging. I'm very similar. Um I hired someone to help me with my social media. I do some stuff, but then you go, well, what do you do? And then you try to automate as much as you can, and then it's just like it can be challenging. I'll say that. So I'm with you. I understand that part.
yeah, I think I'm a little bit old school, if I'm being honest, that I once again, I kind of like the analog world. And so I like the meeting face to face, and while social media has so many benefits, right? I think
Yeah,
it's not the same for me. And so that's always the hurdle for me. But
yeah,
I dole out what I can, I delegate what I can so that I don't have to do it all.
yeah.
I have my hand in certain things, but it's always a little bit of a challenge.
I think you'll probably seen the pendulum swing a little bit backwards. I mean, technology, the people that are like growing up today, millennials, most millennials have never understood life without a computer or without a phone. And so that's what they know. That's how they like to communicate. The technology piece is the key for them.
Right.
Well, and that typically happens when you have lots of things, like the pendulum always swings way over to the side, and then there's this period where everything's got to go. You got to go do it, right? You got to do it, and then it kind of comes back and then balances out a little bit, and so then we get back to some normal activity. That's the way I feel like I see it. I think as the Gen Z, I guess, is the next generation coming in. You
Yeah.
my grandson and grandkids, right? Like they just, that's all they know.
Right.
I think they're going to want to disconnect from that, and then they'll want to get into the analog world and like, how do I get away from this technology stuff and do something real, kind of thing. So I think you'll see that pendulum swing and balance out. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Maybe we'll.
I mean, I think technology is here to stay in some shape or form, but what's really excited me about the COVID times is all the like the quote unquote old school activities, right? Like baking and puzzles and sewing and gardening. And I love that. Like
Yeah.
I love the hands-on nature of all those things that have come back in like
Yeah.
new liking, right? In new ways.
Yep. I mean, home
Yeah,
improvements. The home improvement companies have like skyrocketed. Like, I
totally.
mean, crazy. I mean, we've
Yeah.
been doing projects around here too, but it's like I'll just order the stuff and have them put it out there, and then I'll just get it and do my yard work.
Yep, yep. Plant sales are going crazy too, and it's just. But I love it. I love that's books, right? Like they're all kind of coming back too now, given
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
it's fun, but
interesting
it's fun.
stuff. If you had to go back 5 years ago, 5 years ago, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Oh, so many things. I think one is delegation. I I'm a multitasker, and I take on things and I jump right in, and I sometimes I forget that like I'm not the best person at this, or I don't have to do this. Like someone else can do it and I can focus on something else. And for a long time, I think that wasn't a thing. Maybe I wanted to control it, which is probably part of it. But I think the idea of delegation is huge, because then you only have so much time in a day,
Right.
right? And only so much like brain capacity. And if you can focus it on the things that will, drive your business forward or take care of your clients in the best way, or whatever are those like key things, then someone else can handle all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been something I would definitely have told
How
myself.
did you come to a realization that that's something I needed to do? Because I struggle with delegation too. I don't know. It's probably a control thing, right? Like I like to control it, and I like to be involved.
Yeah.
So it's hard to delegate. It really is. It's kind of like hard to let go.
Yep.
But someone told me something once, and they said, um, "You're never going to move to the next level unless you let go of what you're doing today, or unless you teach someone to do what you're doing today."
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? Like if you just keep doing the same thing all the time, you're never going to move up or move ahead. You're just
Yep.
going to keep doing the same thing. But if you teach someone to do that, you can actually go do something else. So like, oh, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, and I mean it's huge, right? And just the idea of shifting that to somebody else can be scary for a lot
Yes,
of people. And once again, like the control aspect, right? But I think once you do it, it can be. It's just like
it
it's
gets easier, doesn't it? Right? Like you
yeah,
realize, oh, yeah, they can do that. What do I need?
yeah,
I don't need to worry about that.
exactly. And you know, people have skills you don't have too, and that's the
Right?
great thing, right? Like
They do
they
it better than you, or like
exactly.
they add this layer on top of it that you're like,
You're like,
wow, I never
oh
thought about that. That's awesome.
yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
You take that on.
Yeah.
To answer your question though, I think for me, I started to realize that my productivity just it wasn't where I wanted it to be. And as I started to sort of reassess that, I was like, you know, I think it came to me that a lot of what I was doing were things that I didn't have to do. Like, and if I had just shifted that to somebody else, I could really get the things I want to get done.
Yeah.
And so it helped. It just helped that shifting of mindset, and then the ability to actually pass something off
Yeah.
uh, changed things for me.
Yeah. I actually recently hired an assistant to help me with data collection because I collect a lot of data, look at a lot of different things. You know, when I see a pattern or something, I'll go and look and see where I can find data. And I was spending a lot of time just collecting information that I could actually teach someone else how to do, and then they could actually go collect it for me, and I could focus on something else. And I'll tell you, in I just started doing this maybe 4 weeks ago. I've collected more data in the 4 weeks than I have in a long time, and they finished all these tasks, you know, like ahead of time, and like did it faster and better than I would have thought of doing it. I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's like, okay, what's next? So
yeah,
now it's
right.
a little different. You got to think about like, what are the activities I need this person to do so that, you know, so it's a little bit like leading them to do the things. Okay, what's the next task? Here's the task, right? Okay, here's what I need you to do. And so what I would do is like record a video of what I wanted them to do or what I was thinking about, and then
Uh-huh.
just send them the video and then have them ask me if they had any questions, and they'd
Right.
be able to do it without any problem. So
I know. It's amazing.
yeah,
It's amazing how much time you get back, and then what you can use it for.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it changes. It changes
yeah. It
everything.
totally changes you. Yeah, for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
So last question: what's your most inspirational wedding story or business story that you have?
Ooh, most inspirational. So I have to say first that like I think I love all my couples and they all inspire me like in so many ways. I had one early on in my career who they were actually a part of sort of a wedding contest, and when they were sort of chosen, we were the planners, and it was just it felt really good to help a couple who, you know, couldn't necessarily have had the wedding that we helped them to create, but also like they were so in love. And I will always remember like just their love story and how much they cared for each other and their collective families. They each had kids, and it was beautiful.
Yeah,
But every story, I mean, I love every story. I think all of our couples are amazing in so
yeah,
many ways. They all inspire me. So, but that one always hits home a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it's really all about, right? Is the love stories and the, you know, so yeah,
Yeah,
for
and just
sure.
bringing together families, you know, who are
Absolutely. Different
religious.
cultures, different things. I mean, you know, I come from a pretty disconnected family. Wasn't real close to my family, kind of left early in life. So I had been on my own for a while. And when I met my wife, my current wife, she had a really connected family, really large family. And I mean, you know, it's just amazing to see the whole family dynamics that you don't see when you're growing up.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, wow, it's interesting. It's, you know, I feel a part of their family more than my family. And just, you know, just being a part of that was unique. Like when we did our wedding, I think I mean, you know, we really just sat down and said, oh, we're going to invite like 75 people. Well, I didn't realize that in a Mexican family, you know, you invite one person and you're literally inviting like 10 people from the from the whole family, right? So we ended up having like 300 people at our wedding. But it was crazy because the mom and the sisters, there's 8 brothers and sisters with my wife.
Wow.
They wouldn't let us do anything, even though we tried to pay for most everything. They just wouldn't let us do it. Like the one brother's like, nope, I'm taking care of all the booze. Don't you worry about it, you know. And the parents are like, we're making the food, and they literally made all the food, and we had delicious. I mean, it's just it's the dynamics of family and culture, and it's pretty awesome, right, to see, just kind of see all that together. But yeah, that's the beauty of love, I guess.
Yeah, and bringing that all together, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one like melting pot of love, and
It is. It's awesome.
It's an important moment
Yep.
that we get to be a part of, which I love, and what we're hoping, you know, we can continue even despite COVID.
Well, we will, because people will continue to get married. The dynamics of what they'll do may change a little bit, like it is now, right? Whether it's virtual or semi-virtual.
Yeah.
The dynamics will change. The industry will take a little bit of a hit, probably for a couple of years, but you know, things will change again and then shift back. You know, in maybe 2 or 3 years, we'll see some different things that we're doing, right? People being so spread apart will want to get together more. We might be seeing, you know, guest counts in general. In general, the number of people getting married has gone down over the past 10, 15 years, and it just keeps, you know, declining as people just kind of cohabitate together. But ones that do get married, I mean, and you see the guest counts dwindling, and I think it's because people want to have more unique experiences with smaller, you know, the A-list. I hate to say the A-list, but the A-list of their team, right, or their family and friends. And but who knows? I think that even though you're seeing this dwindle down, it might expand back out, you know, in the years to come, as people go, hey, we're tired of being virtual. Let's all get together and do something bigger, right?
I think it's gonna go all different ways, honestly.
It is, totally. It's gonna be completely, well, in 2 years it'll be completely different than it is today. We're talking.
It will be.
Yeah. And I'll come back and interview you and we'll talk again about it.
We will. And I'll have another business for it as well.
Right on. All right, Jamie, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.